Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Side Retired with your host, me, Stratton Davis. Today, my guest is the great Ray Burris. He's best known for playing with the Chicago Cubs, but he was also a member of the Yankees, Mets, A's, Brewers, and also the Cardinals. Before we get to the interview, I do have to shout out again Frank Menachino's friend, Jill, and her GoFundMe. She's going through some health problems, and if any of us can go ahead and throw $1 her way, that'd be greatly appreciated by him. For those who don't know, Frank Menachino used to play for the Oakland A's and was a hitting coach for the White Sox most recently. But I'll have that link down below, and y'all can check that out. But how are you doing, Mr. Burris? It's an honor to have you with us today.
I'm doing fine, Stratty. It's just a beautiful, beautiful day. I was taking it easy today, and normally I do a lot of pitching instructions when I'm home, and so I took the day off today just to kind of let my mind and body recoup.
Well, that's good. I mean, we all need our rest and relaxation. So I know you come from Duke, Oklahoma.
Yes.
And you grew up as a farmer.
Yes.
I want you to tell us a little bit about that, but I also want to start off with this, just asking you this. Do you think farming helped you turn into a better ball player, or really basically the kind of pitcher you became, like it did so many other guys before you who had stamina and could pitch forever, it seemed? A lot of them were farmers prior. So I was curious about that.
Well, the thing that farming did for me, Stratty, farming taught me how to honor and embrace work. It taught me how to work. It taught me how to put together a 9-hour, 15-hour day. Being a farmer, you were up at 3, doing your chores, feeding the chickens, getting the eggs from the hen house, cooking your breakfast, and hitting the fields by 5, finishing up at 9 at night, coming in, doing your chores, eating, going to bed. So as far as extracurricular activities, during the summer, I didn't have a lot of time for extracurricular activities. Even though I played Little League baseball, that was my extracurricular activity. So, and being in the country, we didn't have the technology that you have today. I didn't have no iPhones or Androids or anything like that, or tablets. Landlines was our means of communication. A lot of times we didn't have landlines. So I grew up understanding how to appreciate a fool's day of work. And it taught me the value of what it takes to prepare for that work. To work those kind of hours, you got to get in shape. So that helped me to understand how to get in shape to be a baseball player. But basketball was my number one sport. I love basketball. But what I gained from basketball and farming, I gained the ability to know what I had to do to get in the best shape that I can get in. And this is something I tell young people today. Are you in shape? What kind of conditioning do you do? It's not about lifting weights and seeing how strong I am. You got to have endurance. You got to have stamina. And if you don't swim, which is one of the best exercises conditioning wise on the planet, then you got to run. You got to ride a bike. You got to walk. You got to condition your body for the endurance. Now, I live in Florida. You don't have cold weather in Florida. You have humidity. You're hot. If you don't prepare, you don't hydrate, you don't eat right, you don't sleep right, you're not going to last in a 95-degree humidity in the state of Florida.
And so I know you've talked about when you went to your first game in the Astrodome, how much you really liked that. And thinking like, wow, this is cool. Air conditioned, closed roof. But I know playing baseball and basketball in Oklahoma, you were quite the dude. I know you were actually on the high school team when you were 7 years old.
Yeah, in first grade. Because we only had it was a country school called Lacassa, and it was only 300 students from first to 12. So you can imagine how small the pickings were. And I had 4 brothers. My mom and dad had 5 boys. I was next to the baby. And my mom taught me how to dribble using gardener's gloves. So I could feel the ball through the gardener's gloves. So I could handle the ball. It just didn't allow me to shoot. So, but I could dish the ball. So that was my experience in basketball. And because I started playing basketball at a young age, that was something I really grew to like a lot. And I still watch basketball today. I like watching the competitive side of the big guys in the paint, how they play defense and little things of that nature. So I've had an opportunity to do a lot of things in my lifetime, Stratty, from a standpoint of sports, from a standpoint of experiences in life, traveling in life through sports. And I'm grateful for that because every situation gave me something to grow from. And I think in life, we grow every day, no matter how old we get. If we look at it the right way, there's a growing pattern in that situation, good or bad. Good or bad. There were days I stunk on the mount, but what did I learn from that? And so I understood the value of where is the mustard seed of growth out of that experience. And it is a mustard seed of hope in there, whether you're willing to look for it or not. And sports helped me to understand that. Yeah, you compete against somebody else who's prepared, who's equal to your talent. Sometimes you may be better than they are, but that means you don't take them for granted because anybody can have a good day on any good day. And I learned that at a young age.
Well, excuse me. I know growing up in Oklahoma during that time was tough for you because it was still segregated and it was very much racism was still out and about.
Yes, sir.
How do you think that shaped you going into playing college ball, baseball and basketball at Southwestern Oklahoma State, but also going into your MLB career? Because I'm sure it just didn't stop once you left Oklahoma.
It made me compete harder. It fueled my motivation, made me compete harder. And whatever emotions I channel them inside of me to where they came out in me when I competed. That's the way I did it. And, you know, my voice was not in a position to be heard in the 50s and 60s. So I let it fester on the playing field, on the basketball court, on the baseball field. And that's how I learned how to channel it. Now, I didn't go through as difficult of a time as the Jackie Robinsons and guys before him. Okay. But I went through what I was supposed to go through. And as a result, I'm thankful for the fact that I was smart enough to understand what I needed to do to channel my frustration, my anger, all of that, my feelings. I was able to internalize them and let them come out on the playing field and let them come out in the classroom. I really hunkered down in the classroom to educate myself, to learn how to empower myself so I can go out and be the best athlete I can be. And I'm as I look back on it now, I wouldn't do anything any different.
Well, tell us a little bit about playing college basketball and baseball at Southwestern Oklahoma State University.
Yeah.
I had never honestly heard of the college before learning about you.
Yeah, it's an NAIA school at that time. When I got there in '68, it was a college, Southwestern Oklahoma State College. Now it's a university. It's a Division II, I believe, and they're the Bulldogs up on the hill in Weatherford, Oklahoma, 75 miles west of Oklahoma City. And it was interesting how everything materialized for me to get to Southwestern Oklahoma State College. I started playing baseball and basketball at the age of 7. As I grew, I seemed to get a little better. I had a good arm, and I'm playing American Legion ball, which is summer league. And we're playing in a tournament in Oklahoma City. And I'm pitching the game. I go a complete game. And after the game, this guy comes up to me and he says, Mr. Burris? I said, yes, sir. He says, my name is Cecil Devine, who was the head baseball coach. And I said, how you doing, sir? He said, I want to ask you a question. I said, what's that? He said, do you have any aspirations to go to college? I said, yes, I would love to go to college. I just don't have any offers on the table at this point in time that would give me an idea that I could go to a college or an institution. And I wasn't looking at a Division I or anything. I was just looking to maybe get a chance to go to college to kind of help my parents financially. So he says, would you be interested in coming to Southwestern Oklahoma State College? I'm the head baseball coach there. I said, yes, sir. What are you going to give me? He said, I'll give you half a scholarship. I said, well, what does that entail? What does that pay for? He said, that pays for room and board and books, and that's what it paid. Now, when I got there, I learned that Southwest Oklahoma State only had 5 full scholarships for baseball. And here I was the first recipient of a half scholarship because they were giving out a 16th, a third, a quarter, and here I was with a half. So now, since basketball was my favorite sport, I was playing intramural basketball. So I started my career in Southwestern on a half scholarship in baseball. So I'm playing intramural basketball in the gymnasium. We win a championship, and I'm sitting on the bleachers there, just kind of chilling, going over the game and stuff. This gentleman walks up to me. He says, you look like you're handling yourself pretty good out there on the basketball court. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't even know who he was watching, And I said, well, I like basketball. I said, even though I'm here to play baseball, I like basketball. He said, well, would you like to try out for the basketball team? I said, yes, I would love to try out for the basketball team. What do I need to do? He said, you got to run 3 miles under 20 minutes. Okay. If I do that, what do I get? He said, I'll give you a half a scholarship. So I could do math, a half and a half total strategy, right? So I go out and do it in 18 minutes. So I get a half a scholarship in basketball. Then I got a half scholarship in baseball. And got me through college. And, it just goes to show you the chain of events that are coming your way. You have no knowledge until they get there. And I always used to say, my mom used to always tell me, son, there are doors out there that's got your name on it. Only you can open them up. And I look back on that series of events, and those were some of the doors she was talking about. You got to open up that door. Nobody's going to give you nothing. And so I never took anything for granted, ever.
Well, I think that's a message a lot of people need to hear. Your hard work really did pay off, and it shows. I got to ask this. This just came to my mind, knowing how you were a baller in basketball. And your guy, your hero was Bob Gibson, and he was also a pretty dang good basketball player. And I don't think a lot of people realize how many great baseball players were pretty good basketball players. Another guy, Tony Gwynn. I want to ask you this because I know at the time in the NBA things were sparse. Do you think you could have played there?
I could have played basketball because I was a good defensive player. I was very quick. I had good anticipation. If I would have gotten a chance, yes, I think I could have played basketball at the NBA level, or even at that time the ABA level. But that never happened. I got a chance to be drafted by the Cubs after I graduated from college in '72, and started my career in baseball. But the basketball ability to get in shape taught me what I needed to do to get in shape in baseball. So I'm thankful for that opportunity, strategy, because that kept my endurance up to par, that kept my stamina up to par. I knew how to get my legs in shape. I know how to build my wind, my stamina by conditioning, and that helped me tremendously. And basketball gave me a lot of life challenges. It gave me a lot of life maturity on how to be patient on the basketball court, how to run the play and let it take care of itself. You just got to execute the play. No different than baseball. Execute. That's what it's all about. Life. Execute. That's what it's all about. So sports gave me a blueprint for the rest of my life that I'm still using today in my life.
Well, tell us a bit about getting drafted, because I've talked to some guys from your time, and the stories of how they found out they got drafted are always a bit unique and different from one another. So I'd like to hear about that.
Well, I was playing semi-pro baseball in Lawton, Oklahoma, and for the Lawton Pepsis at that time. And the draft comes about in June. First day, don't hear anything. Second day, don't hear anything. Third day, don't hear anything. And finally, at the end, the beginning of the fourth day, I get a call. And, by then your mind is in a ravel and you're thinking, well, I'm not going to get a chance. So I'm getting ready to implement my degree from college and go into recreational leadership role. And my goal was to start on military bases, running programs for the families on military bases. And Fort Sill, I worked there in the summertime playing baseball in Lawton, Oklahoma. So I get the call. Billy Capps is the gentleman that called me. He's a scout for the Cubs. And he tells me, he says, Mr. Burris? I say, yes, sir. He said, this is Billy Capps of the Chicago Cubs. I said, how you doing, Miss Capps? I said, what can I do for you? And I'm not even thinking, I'd been drafted. And he says, the Chicago Cubs picked you in the 17th round as a pitcher. And I said, and I was just like, I couldn't say nothing because I'm trying to process this, and finally I come back to reality and I said, oh, that is so wonderful. You don't know how happy I am. He said, can you meet me in Lawton on this day and we can sign your contract and I'll buy you the biggest steak on the planet. So I met him in Lawton, Oklahoma, starting at the Ponderosa. And, got a kid from the country, man. I don't get steaks every day. Yeah. And he bought me this big porterhouse. And I think he was more fascinated watching me eat it all than me signing the contract. So I signed my contract. I got a $3,000 bonus for signing my contract. And that was the start of my career, 1972.
So did you even know that the Cubs had been looking at you?
Had no idea. Did
you know any teams looking at you?
Well, I had been told that the Yankees, Greenberg, one of the top scouts for the Yankees, who signed Mickey Mantle and Bobby Mercer, guys like that, who were all from Oklahoma, had been looking at me. What had happened? 1971, I led the nation in wins at every level. I was 16-4 at Southwestern as a pitcher. Finished my career 39-5. 39-9, I think, was my record in the 3 years I pitched. I didn't play my freshman year. I was redshirted. So I made up the difference. My senior year, because we were in the playoffs in basketball, I didn't get out to baseball until late. Now, condition-wise, I was in shape. Arm-wise, I wasn't. But we would take off in March and we would come drive down to Texas and play schools down in Texas because of the weather. And then we come back to start our season. Well, because I was late starting, the rumor got out that I had a bad arm. So I don't know how that leaked out. I didn't have a bad arm. It just wasn't in shape. And so the Yankees was looking at me possibly being a higher draft choice. I don't know what number one. I doubt it's the number one, but a higher draft choice. But here's the way I look at that. I don't get caught up in how I was drafted. I'm thankful that I got drafted. Yeah. The rest is up to me, Stratty. So many kids today, oh, I got to go number one. I got to go number one overall. I got to do this. I got to do this. Hey, do you want to play baseball? Or you don't? Do you want to live the rest of your life on, I was the number one overall, but you only spent 2 years in the big leagues? I mean, I was 17th round draft choice.
Yeah.
I was able to put 15 years in the big leagues as a 17th round and 3 years as a coach for 18 years total. Can't nobody take that away from me. Can't nobody on this planet take it away from me. It's in the books. But now I'm number one overall, but I don't even last for 2 years in the big leagues. I mean, that's an egg on my face. If I'm the number one pick overall, I should have a 20-year career.
Yeah. But
that's not how young people look at things nowadays. But that's how I looked at it. I got a chance to play baseball. I got a $3,000 bonus. Am I walking around saying, oh, woe is me? Absolutely not. I made the most of the opportunity. That's what I wanted. Yeah, the $3,000 is more than I ever made in my life as a farmer, and I was the happiest camper to be able to get $3,000. But all the hard work I did, all of the growth that I attained from Little League all the way up to that day that I got that call, that paid for it as far as I'm concerned. The years I was able to get to the big leagues, that paid for it. I spent 2 months in the minor leagues in 1972. The next year in 73, I go to big league camp as a non-roster player. And I make the big league club out of spring training in 1973. I spent a year in the minor leagues.
Yeah, and now the whole time in the minor leagues, you just stayed in Midland, right?
No, I was in Midland in 72 for the 2 months because I had to go to Bradenton, Florida for the mini camp. They sent me to Midland out of mini camp between me and Dennis Lamb. Those were
I wanted to talk about Midland real quick because that's actually the ballpark I grew up going to, like seeing games at. And I've actually never played. I've actually never talked to a ball player for Midland. So I just want to ask real quick, what was Midland like then, and what was it like playing in Midland?
Midland was a nice little ballpark. It's a lot different now. Back there in 72, you'd have to go out to the ballpark early just to get tumbleweeds off the fence because they would blow from right field to left field with the wind because it's just flat land out there in Midland, and it was like a big in oil out in that area.
Yes,
so
sir.
All rigs out there, but the ballpark was really nice. I stayed with Jim Tyrone at his flat, and I'm still close with Jim Tyrone. He lives in Arlington, Texas. The ballpark was nice. You had to pitch to the dimensions of the ballpark because the wind blew straight out to left. So I always try to make them hit it straight away center or into the wind to right field. And that was good. The one thing people don't realize about Midland had fluorescent lights. They were so bright. It was unbelievable. So one night, I'm starting the game in Midland, and we look to the third base side. You can see this heavy, dark cloud coming. It looked like a funnel cloud. So we're thinking, oh, this ain't going to be good. It's going to be a lot of hail and rain, and we're not going to get this thing in. So I'm starting the game, out doing my warm-ups. Game starts. I'm out doing my warm-ups on the mound. All of a sudden, I hear fans in the stands screaming and hollering. What that cloud was zillions of locusts. And they were dive bombing because the fluorescent lights had drew them to the stadium, and they were dive bombing on the people in the stands. They had those metal seats, and you could just hear them hitting. Bam, bam. I threw a ball in a warm-up, and I must have killed a half a dozen that hit the ball on the way to the catcher. They had to call the game. Right? Wow. We got locusts out of a game. It was like something out of the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
I'm telling you, it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. We running in with our hands over our head. They dive bombing us, hitting us in the head. Oh my God. We had a guy, a third baseman named Ron Dunn, Rob Sperrin, Jim Tyrone. It was a pretty good group there. Pete Lecoq, who I played with for many years. He was the son of Peter Marshall. And it was the next day we go out to the ballpark. You got all these locusts on the grass. They just died. Cicadas, just right there. Unbelievable. I never seen anything like that.
Wow. And so you got done. You went up to Midland, got done there, and then like you said, you made the big league club right out of spring training in 73. One thing I found really cool is that you are pretty loud and proud about who your mentors were when you first got there. And those guys were Ferguson, Jenkins, and Billy Williams, 2 Hall of Famers. But the person I really want to highlight here, because I feel like most of my viewers and most people my age, myself included, don't know much about, is Jose Cardenal.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind just telling us how those 3 guys mentored you, helped you out, and also kind of divulging a bit on how Jose Cardenal was as a player.
Well, Jose Cardenal was a great mentor to me. We still get together. He lives in Bradenton, Florida, and we still get together. And I'll drive down, pick him up. We go have lunch together, and just reminisce and tell stories and laugh and cut up, call people and talk to them and stuff like that. Fergie helped me to understand what it took to pitch in Wrigley Field. Now, here's a guy that won 20 games 6 years in a row at Wrigley Field. He taught me how to sink the ball. He taught me how to keep the ball down. He taught me a slider, which I didn't have a breaking ball when I got to the big leagues in '73. I had a fastball, a slurve, wasn't a true slider. He taught me a slider. Dave Justy, one of my teammates later on, taught me a changeup. So Fergie helped me to understand the mental approach to pitching in Wrigley Field. Billy Williams helped me to understand how to get hitters out, how to read hitters, their stance, how they held the bat, perpendicular, vertical, where to throw them. And being the hitter that he was, he understood. So I leaned on him a lot. Jose Cardenal took me under his wing by teaching me how to build my credit. He said, I want you to go get a Sears and Roebuck credit card and start purchasing with it to build your credit. Pay for all your cards while you're playing, because the insurance is going to be enough when you finish playing. Try to pay for your house while you're playing. Okay. Save 15% or 20% of all the money you bring in. So you start building for life after the game. We don't know how long that's going to be. And he taught me how to be a professional on and off the field. So Jose Cardenal was my mentor. He was my guru. And I love him. He's just an incredible man. He's a young man from Cuba. And so he taught me a lot. Taught me the Cuban cuisine, how to enjoy espresso, how to eat Cuban food. So he reinvented things that I had never been privy to or thought about. But Jose helped me to understand that, and we're still very close right now. Very close. Yeah.
What was he like as a player? Because honestly, I'd never
as a
known
player?
about. Yeah, as a player.
Oh, Junior could play. Jose could have hit 340 every year if he wanted to.
Wow.
But the reason he didn't is because they would expect him to do it every year. Because that's how they paid us. They paid us on productivity. And they didn't, we didn't get multi-year contracts back then. We got 1-year contracts.
Yeah.
So if you Jose would hit you 292 to 295 every year. He'd stay with you. He knew how many hits he needed to get. He knew how many at-bats he was going to get. And he knew the mathematical formula, what he needed to do. And he could hit, he could drive the ball, he could run, he could throw. He played the game the way he was supposed to play the game. And, for a young man as small as he was, he had a lot of power. He had a lot of power, And he went through a lot as a young man growing up in Cuba. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do want to ask about this because it's one thing I just kind of realized looking at your career with the Cubs and then also reading some articles about you from the time. But you went through a lot of coaching and managerial changes throughout your whole time with the Cubs, and that's who you spent the most time with in your career. And I know at one point you said the way it made you feel was that it was just overall confusing. And you felt like your last manager there, Herman Franks, didn't really care for you. So I just got to ask about what was the issue with the coaching and managerial positions in Chicago at that time? Because I just want to say this real quick. You guys had a lot of great players. Manny Trio, Rick Russell, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame. But but I mean, other guys in that too. I believe y'all had Bobby Bonds at one year, and it always blows my mind because we'll get to another team you were on later that I feel the same way about. It always blows my mind whenever a team can have so much talent and it seems like it just doesn't mesh. And in the case of the Cubs there, it seems like the coaching and managerial problems could have been the problem.
Well, I don't think it was a combination of the coaches issue, because the coaches couldn't play for you.
Yeah.
You know, we had to go out and play ourselves. Now, maybe we were gelling as a team. When I got there in 73, you still had the version of the 1969 club that lost to the Mets going in the month of September. Yes, Sano at third, Kessinger at short, Beckert at second, Hickman was at first. You had Jose Cardenal, Billy Williams, and Rick Mundy in the outfield. Carmen Fanzon was the backup to Ron Santo at third. You had Randy Hundley behind the plate. You had Fergie, Milt Pappas, Bert Hooton, Rick Russell. That was your four-man rotation. Okay, so Paul Popovich came off the bench. We had James was an outfielder that come off the bench. So we had the ability to win a division. In fact, that year in 73, we were leading our division in going into July before the All-Star break. We had a lead over the Mets. And we got rained out in Montreal, at Old Jerry Park in Montreal. We had to go back in there and play a 5-game series in 4 days. We had to make up a game from the last series we were there. We lost all 5 games. Could not hit, and the Mets overtook us, and obviously they went on to the World Series in 1973 and lost to the Oakland A's. And so it's like a deja vu of 1969. And, you know, sometimes it gets in your head. You know, you're like, oh no, here we come again, you know. And it wasn't because they weren't trying, wasn't because we weren't trying. It just didn't happen. So now, after the 73 season, they started dismantling the ball club. Okay. Fergie Jenkins goes to the Texas Rangers for Bill Madlock and Vic Harris. Randy Hundley goes to the Minnesota Twins for Dave LaRoche and George Middlewall. Glenn Becker goes to the San Diego Padres for Jerry Morales. Ron Santo goes to the Chicago White Sox for Steve Swisher and several other players, right? So they start dismantling the club. Now, Billy Williams is still there. Jose is still there. Okay. Pappas is gone. Bert Hooton went to the Dodgers. I think we got Rick Mundy in that transaction. And then later on, after the flag situation in Dodger Stadium, Mundy goes back to the Dodgers. And so we got Mundy from the Oakland A's, I believe. So things started changing. So now you got a new group. Okay, my first year in 73, Whitey Lockman was the manager. And for people who know the historical side of Whitey Lockman was the person on first base when Bobby Thompson hit the famous home run to win the pennant for the Giants in 1951. He scored ahead of him on first base. So you got baseball man. You got baseball history. He took over from Leo DeRocher, who was the manager in 72. So now in 72, Whitey Lockman was the farm director for the Chicago Cubs. He was the one that sent me to AA out of minicamp. And you don't see that in today's market. You don't see that right out of minicamp to AA. You either start at rookie league or low A at the most. So now he's my first manager. Thing I liked about it, Stratty, he gave me the ball. Next year, Jim Marshall becomes the manager. And he's there from 74 and 75. After that, you have Alvin Dark. After that, you have Herman Franks. Herman Franks trades me to the Yankees for Dick Tidrow. When I get to New York, I've got Bob Lemon as a manager when I got traded. They fire him. Billy Martin fires him, brings back Billy Martin at the All-Star break. I lasted to August the 20th, and I got put on waivers. The New York Mets picked me up with Joe Torre as my manager. So I spend the rest of it, the 79 season, all of 80, become a free agent, sign with the Montreal Expos. Dick Williams is my manager in 81. And then Bill Verdon was my manager in Montreal. And then Jim Fannin. So then I get traded to the Oakland A's after the 83 season. Well, I've got Steve Burrows. He gets fired. Jackie Moore takes over. So I got two managers in 84. I get traded to the Milwaukee Brewers in 85. I've got George Bamberger in 85. Okay. Then I get April 1st of 86. I get put on waivers. The Cardinals pick me up. I got Whitey Herzog. In 87, I go back to the Brewers, and I've got Tom Trebleheart. So I've had a lot of managers and a lot of pitching coaches. Now, when you say, how does that affect you as a player? Every individual has a way that they do things. As a player, you got to adjust to that formula and make it work. You got to adjust to that formula and make it work. You may not like the way they run the club. That's okay. What does that have to do with you going out and getting somebody out? I'm judging them on how much they give me the ball. Now, when they give me the ball, the way I took it, I went out there to show them that they made the best decision they could make at that moment in time. And I want to let my performance indicate that. Why? So I can get the ball again and do it again. So I can get the ball again. So I can keep repeating. And so that's how I approach my game. I didn't worry about who the manager was. I worried about how often they gave me the baseball. Same way going from club to club. If a club wanted you, that means you're going to get the baseball. I don't want to be with a club that wants to trade me because they're going to minimize my time and playing. I got to make a living. So That's how I judge things, Fatty.
Well, I know you were a starter throughout your time with the Cubs, and then you left. When you left and were traded to the Yankees for Tidrow, you were put in the bullpen.
Yes.
I had another question I want to ask you about your short time with the Yankees, but before I just got to ask, was that frustrating?
No.
Okay. So you tell me about that.
Here's why. I had good teammates in New York. I had Louis Tiant, who I go to the ballpark with on a regular basis. I had Jim Kaat in the bullpen. I had Willie Randolph. I had Chris Chambliss. Great teammates. Still close to them today. Still talk to them today because we lost Tiant, but I still talk to them today.
Yeah.
And so the time that I was there, the saddest part of that time when I was there, Stratty, is that we lost Thurman Munson while I was there. And that was the saddest time for me there. But I got the ball to pitch, and I may not have pitched as much as I wanted to, but I did when Bob Lemon was there. And he gave me the ball. And I'm appreciative of that. I really am.
Well, I know you talked about during that time you got to learn from where'd he go? You got to learn from Tiant, who you mentioned, and Kaat, but you also learned from Catfish, Hunter, and Tommy John.
Yeah.
And all four of those guys should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, we got Hunter there and we got Kaat, but Tommy John needs to be there, and so is Luis Tiant. What did you learn from those guys?
Well,
I'm curious.
Louis, I learned techniques. I learned instincts from Louis. Jim Kaat, I learned details of hitters' tendencies. Okay. Catfish Hunter, I just learned his ability to command. He could command his pitches. Now, at that time in his career, he wasn't like he was when he was with the Oakland A's, dominating over there. He wasn't as effective, but he still could throw strikes. So that's what I'm talking about. He could throw strikes at any time he wanted to. So those guys brought a different level of intrigue and growth for me, because I would ask them questions. Jim Kaat and I, we would go out dancing. He would use dancing as his conditioning. Oh, he'd dance all night. Just get on the floor and just dance. Oh, come on, Raybone, we're gonna go dancing tonight. Kaat, man, I'm tired. No, come on, you got to go with me. So I go, and we just sit there and just dance until our socks got wet. But those were good days. I enjoyed that. Willie Randolph was good at encouraging, and then I got a chance to coach him in Milwaukee in the 90s, along with Dave Parker, and so those were unique situations in my life and during my career that I will always hold special. Coaching Nolan Ryan, being there coaching them, Robin Yao, Paul Mollington, Cecil Cooper, being Ogilvy, being teammates and then coaching them. Teddy Higuera, great pitcher, great little pitcher. So I've had a chance to coach a lot of people. Ruben Sierra, Pudge Rodriguez, Juan Gonzalez, Rafael Palmeiro, Jose Canseco, a lot of good pitchers and players that I've had a chance to coach during my career. So that's special to me. I played against a lot of good players, and the game has many unique opportunities. I never took anything for granted. When I say that, this is what I mean. I never took anything for granted from the standpoint that I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. No. What do I do with the moment that I have at this point in time? And we have a tendency sometimes, Stratty, to think 2 months down the road. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be alive tomorrow. There's no guarantee. If I wake up tomorrow, I get another day to make a difference. And that difference starts within me and migrates out from me. And so I'm always trying to be a self-evaluator of who I am. Because at the end of the day, I got to look in the mirror. Do I like what I see? If I don't like what I see, what are you going to do about it? And you have control to do something about it. I don't have control to change you, but I have control to change me. That's life. I don't know no other way to put it, my friend. That's life. And that's what these guys taught me. Jose Cardenal, Billy Williams, Ferguson Jenkins, Willie Randolph, Chris Chambliss, Jim Kaat, Louis Tiant, Jim Tyrone.
Well, there's one teammate I do want to ask you about that you haven't mentioned yet. Before I go further on about 79, before the 79 season started, you became a born-again Christian thanks to fellow pitcher Dave Roberts.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just ask about that kind of experience. Like I read that it happened on a road trip.
Happened on a road trip. We were in, I believe, Atlanta. And Dave Roberts invited me to go eat sushi. I had never had sushi. And I said, man, I'm not eating no raw fish, because I had it on my own definition of sushi. He said, it's not raw fish. He said, you can get raw fish. I said, well, why do I want to eat raw fish for? If they got something they can cook it, I don't want to eat it. He said, oh, come on, try it. So he talked me into it. I went and tried it. And he said, as we're sitting there talking, he says, let me ask you a question. I said, what you got? He said, you believe in Christ? I said, sure. He said, well, have you ever given your life to Christ? I said, as a young teenager, I was baptized in the Baptist church. Yeah. And he says, do you serve him every day? Well, I had never had that question presented to me. And I said, what do you mean, do I serve him every day? He said, do you give thanks to him every day? Through prayer, through what you do? Do you submit your life to him every day? And I couldn't answer that, Daddy. I couldn't answer that. And he looked at me and he says, I just want you to think about it. I just want you to think about it. And that kept hounding me. It kept hounding me and kept hounding me and kept hounding me. And then I start going to chapel and start listening. And I was kind of torn, you know, which side of the fence am I going to go on? I was kind of straddling the fence at that time. And finally I just said, you know, I need to let go, because I was still trying to hang on. And that was the key. Let go. Let go. Through faith, through trust, through belief. Let go. And once I started doing that, the game even became more fun to me. Life became more fun to me, because I could just enjoy life and let go. Whatever direction God's going to take me, he's going to take me for a reason, because it's going to be to his glorification, not mine. And I always thought, well, I got to do this. I got to do that. No, you don't. You just got to let go and let him have it. He'll take care of the rest. He's in that business. And so that made a difference. So thankful for Dave. Thankful for Dave. He's a great teammate. He's a great teammate.
Well, I'm glad that that happened for you. Glad to know you're another brother in Christ. So it's cool we can share that. I do want to ask, going further into 79, you were later on traded to the Mets.
Yes, sir.
And you were managed by Joe Torre, who really did believe in you, and I thought that was pretty cool. But what I think is cool, well, unique about Torre at that time was people didn't really believe in him as a manager. And then later on, he turned into a 4-time World Series champion as a manager, mostly due to his players, but his strategy did come into play. I just have to ask, what was it like getting to play for him when he was so young, and what was he like then as a manager?
He was almost like a teammate. Joe understood how tough it was to play the game. So when he was a third baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals, the year he won the batting title, you know, Joe put some pretty good numbers up on the board. People don't realize that. And he was still learning as a manager, coming along. You know, all of us as a player, we first got to the big leagues, we were learning. The more seasoned we got, the more we refined our approach. And Joe let you go out and perform. If he needed to say something to you, he would call you in the office and he would talk to you man to man. Wouldn't scold you. He'd talk to you man to man, because he's been there. He understands. And he wants to get you back in the frame of mind of where you can go out there and compete and give us a chance to win a ball game. And that's what Joe was all about. So I was very grateful to be able to play for him, and very honored to see him have the success he had with the Yankees. And even when he went to the Braves and coached there, and to the Dodgers and coached there, the success he had as a manager as well as a player. And so when you look at individuals like that, like a Joe Torre, like a Davey Johnson, who has success as a player and has success as a manager, that's pretty rare. That's pretty unique. You know, I played with Tito Francona in Montreal, and look at what he's done. You know, from Boston to Cleveland, down with the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, those are guys that you pull for because they're baseball men. They know how the game should be played. They weren't superstars, but they were stars. And that's what life is all about.
Well, one of the teammates I want to ask you about real quick, that you got to be with on the Mets just for a short time, is Doc Ellis. And you also got to see him at your first MLB game, not pitching, but warming up prior to the game. And Doc Ellis is a guy I like to ask about anytime I find out someone was a teammate of his, because I think, you know, the sad truth is people know him for, you know, being on LSD and throwing a no-hitter. And the truth is he was a lot more than his vices. And he got away from his vices and he helped a lot of people out. And kind of changed up the drug culture in the MLB to kind of go away from the drug culture.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people just don't realize that. So that's why I like to ask about him. But I wanted to ask you, do you have any good Doc Ellis stories from being his teammate?
Doc Ellis was he loved the kid in the clubhouse. He loved the kid, loved the joke, loved the laugh. Great pitcher. Doc was a good pitcher. People don't give him the credit of what he could do as a pitcher, and just had a feel for pitching. But he had a feel for life. People don't know that. You know, they stigmatize a person for one thing. That didn't define who Doc Ellis was.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at our own lives, we all have something that we could be stigmatized for. Not too many people may know it because they're not as exposed as we were as athletes at the major league level. But Doc Ellis had a great heart. Do anything in the world for you. Do anything in the world for you. And that's what I admired about him as a teammate. He loved to have fun. He loved to compete. And he loved the game of baseball. And that's, you know, it's a shame that we lost him as early as we did.
Yeah.
He was a great soul. He was a great soul. I enjoyed being him as a teammate. In fact, Jose Cardenal was there as well in '79. Yeah, he was there. And then he left there and went to the Kansas City Royals, Jose Cardenal. So I was on there with Jose in '79 with the Mets. So, you know, with John Stearns and Craig Swan and Lee Mazzilli and all those guys, Doug Flynn, Joel Youngblood, you know, Tavares, Elliot Maddox, yeah. All those guys, Dan Norman, Steve Henderson was there. Yeah, they were a young club, and they had made all those trades from other clubs. You know, you had the Joe Youngblood, Doug Flynn, Pat Zachary, all came from the Reds for the Tom Seaver trade.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that was good. That was good.
Well, you went from the Mets to the Expos, and we kind of talked about it a little bit before this show, but the 81 Expos still today are a beloved team, a popular team with baseball historians, and a lot of people yearn to have the Expos back. I want you to tell my audience about the big game you had in the NLCS against the Dodgers and why and what inspired you, what fueled your fire going into that game. But also I want to know, what was it like to pitch in the game that resulted in Blue Monday?
Well, the 81 playoffs was a unique season because it was the year of the strike. We had 59-day strike. When the strike took place, the Phillies was leading our division. And when we came back in August, we had they decided to have a second half, another half. So we won the second half of the Cardinals. So we go up against the Phillies in the divisional series. Steve Rogers pitches us into the NLCS. We win the divisional series in Philly. We fly from Philly to LA to start the NLCS in Dodgers, in Dodgertown. Bill Gullickson starts the first game on Tuesday, and we lose. So that night, I'm just watching the news at the Biltmore Hotel, and NBC is covering that game. So you have the lineup of the Dodgers, the lineup of the Expos. The announcer goes down the lineup, announces everybody's name, 1 through 9. He goes down through the Expos, announces everybody's name, 1 through 8. And there's my name in big, bold black letters. Now, white letters, sorry. So now I'm thinking, oh, they think the Dodgers are going to go up 2-0 because Fernando is pitching. Now, I'm not taking nothing away from Fernando. He had a phenomenal season. Rookie of the year, phenomenal pitcher. But don't take nothing away from me either. So, in the workout on Monday at Dodger Stadium, I recognized something in my delivery that I wasn't doing in the game I pitched in Philly against the Phillies, where I only went 5 1/3, 5 2/3, and I wasn't very pleased with it. I didn't feel comfortable going down the slope, so I figured out what I was doing. So now I go into that game. There were a lot of incentives in that game that I had been privy to during the course of the year. Dusty Baker always shared with me, Pedro Guerrero always hits a home run for Fernando in a game. Always hit him during that year. And I don't know how true that was. I wasn't with the Dodgers. So I kept that in the back of my mind. So now the game starts. We go into the bottom of the ninth. Runners on first and second. Garvey's on second. Guerrero with 1 out. Guerrero is at the plate. 3-0 lead. And I know he's trying to go Long Johnson to tie the score. So I had busted him in. Then I throw an off-speed slider down in the way that he tries to pull and hits a soft liner to Chris Spire, shortstop, who backhands it going toward third base. Garvey was halfway to third. He catches the ball, wheels, and turns to Rodney Scott to double him off to end the game on a 5-hitter, 3-0 shutout. Now the series is tied. We go into the clubhouse. At that time, the secretary would come and get you to go down to the media room to address the media. So he comes to get me, and Ray Burris, they want you in the media room. I said, okay, put my clothes on, went down there, got up to the podium there, announced who I was. I took the mic, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, there will be no questions tonight. And I proceeded to tell the story. Now, NBC wasn't going to apologize to me. I knew that. But it gave me an incentive I didn't have to deal with them the rest of the series. So I didn't feel any questions. I said, all of you are at the game tonight. You write what you want to write. I know what I saw. You know what you saw. May not be comparable. May be different. Everybody's thoughts. But hey, you saw it. It's a W for the Expos. We going home tied 1-1. And now Rogers pitches. We have an off day on the Thursday. Rogers pitches on Friday. He beats the Dodgers on Friday. Now we're up 2-1, so that's 3 out of 5. Jim Fannin had been brought back before the break, before the strike was over, because Dick Williams was the manager at the start of the strike. And they had let him go and brought Jim Fannin, who was the farm director for the Expos for many years, along with John McHale. They're the one that built that franchise. So we get back to we win the game on Friday. We go up 2-1. As we get on the off day, we're working out the stadium. Fanning calls us in the office and wants me and Gully to come in and see him. So we go into the office, and he says, look, here's what I'm planning on doing. I'm planning on bringing you back, Gully, you back, Ray, on 3 days rest. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, I had a problem with it because we had a gentleman by the name of Scott Sanderson, who we lost about 10 years ago, who had done a good job for us in the month of September. And I said, Jim, why don't you let Scott Sanderson pitch Saturday? Gully Sunday. I can go to the bullpen. And if we win, you can either start Steve in the first game of the World Series, or you can start me in the first game of the World Series and have Steve start the second game. I said, Scott deserves a chance. He's part of this ball club. He helped us get to where we got. Give him a chance. I can go to the bullpen. He wouldn't have it. Gullickson goes out. We lose. He's 0-2, right, in the playoffs, in the NLCS. He lost the first game. He lost game 4. Now it's tied 2-2. I'm scheduled to start on Sunday. We get rained out, Saturday. We get rained out. So I get my 4 days rest. I go 8 innings on Monday, on the Monday's game. Rogers comes in. Now, he had pitched great for us. He just happened to leave a ball out on the plate for Rick Monday to drive straight away center field. Score was 2-1. That was it. We never could recover. But I can truthfully say I was honored to represent the Montreal Expos represent the fans of Canada, to represent my family, and to represent myself and my teammates in those 2 games that I pitched in NLCS. And that is history. You can't take it away from me.
Yeah.
It's in the books, my friend. So I may not have won 200 games in the big leagues, right? I may not have won a lot of games. You look at my record, I was 108 wins, 134 losses. That's 242 decisions at the big league level with over 2,100 innings pitched. That's in the books. That's in the books.
Well, I really thought the story of you in the NLCS was cool, and I was really surprised it hadn't been talked about more. So I'm glad you told us a lot about it. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
The next team in your career, I want to kind of, if there's anything cool from the A's or Cardinals, feel free to share. But I want to skip over to Milwaukee because you had a cool experience there. You had one stint, but then you came back for your second stint, and that's what I want to focus on. In 1987, you were hired as the assistant to GM Harry Dalton.
Yes.
And Bud Selig had paid attention to you and liked the way that you were mentoring Ernie Riles and Mike Felder.
Yeah.
And he was kind of grooming you to be a general manager later on. So I want to know a little bit about that. But later on in that season, you were retired and they needed some pitching, and you made a comeback. I want to know about, first, what was the experience like working in the front office there? But then what was it like to go out of the front office and put back on the uniform?
That was unusual. I don't know how many people have done that, Stratty. I really don't, that have been involved in baseball in some form or fashion. It was interesting how all of that materialized. During the course of the year, I was in Milwaukee during the season, staying there, and I was working alongside Sal Bando as being groomed as general manager by Bud Selig, and which meant I had to sit in Bud Selig's box during the course of home games and be a part of what it was like to be a general manager, go to the winter meetings, be a part of trade talks and the whole works. But I also would go down and throw BP for the team. And then after BP, go dress and then go watch the game. During BP, guys would be saying, "Ray, man, you need to come back, man. You got too much movement on your ball. You just, I say, hey, how you think I survived? I had to have movement. You guys be depositing stuff in the seats, So I kept hearing that all year. So one day we're playing the Minnesota Twins, I believe. The Twins, Cleveland Indians, or one of those two teams. It may have been Cleveland. Well, Steve Carlton is pitching for him. And I'm sitting in the box with Bud Selig and his wife, Pat. And Bud's a big fan. He was just a big, big fan, even though he owned the ball club. He loved baseball. So he's just going haymakers. Carlton shuts us out 4-0. We can't hit him. He just, dicing and carving us up. And Bud kept saying, you know what, Ray, we ought to bring you back. And I just had enough. I said, you know what, Bud, you should. What is it going to cost you? It ain't going to cost you a free agent. I'm coming out of the front office. I'm not even classified as an A, B, C, or D. I said, but I can be a coach for you in the bullpen to help these young folks and understand how to get ready to come into a ball game. I said, you pay me what you want to pay me. It's up to you. So this is on a Saturday. I'm leaving the next day going to Stockton, California. And I get on the plane out of Milwaukee. I'm flying into California. I think it was Orange County. I get to the Marriott. I go in my room and the phone rings. And it's Bruce Mano, the farm director. I pick up the phone. Hello? Hey, Raybone, it's Bruce. I said, hey, Bruce, how you doing? He said, how was your flight? I said, it was good, man. It was really good. I just walked into the hotel room. Your timing is impeccable, my friend. And he says, let me ask you a question. I said, what you got? He said, how long will it take you to get ready? I said, 2 weeks. So Dave McNamara was the manager in Stockton. So I started getting groomed there in Stockton. I'm doing my running. I'm doing my bullpens. I'm getting my arm ready, pretty much ready because I've been throwing BP the whole year. So my first game, I go 6 innings, okay, 65 pitches. 4 days later, I go another 7 innings, 66 pitches. And I'm working so fast that I've got the owner of the club comes down and asks me, can I slow it down so his vendors could make money? I say, sir, I'm a rhythmic pitcher. Yeah, they just got to walk fast and sell more wherever they stop. And so I got Gary Sheffield in shortstop. I got Daryl Hamilton in center field. And I'm just going through pitching. So now I'm 2-0 in Stockton. I leave there. I go back to Milwaukee to work out with the big club during the All-Star break. So Harry Dalton said, Ray, we're going to send you to Denver. We want to see how you fare against the AAA players in Denver. I said, okay, no problem. So I met the club in Buffalo. Steve Swisher is catching. Not Steve Swisher. He's managing because that was the Cleveland ball club. Donnie Scott is catching me. So I go 7 innings. We win the game 4-3. We're flying back to Denver, which was the Denver Zephyrs, the AAA in '87. Terry Beverton calls me into the office and said, hey, Ray, I need to see it. I said, okay. I get my bag, put it in my locker. He says, I go in. He says, you're on a plane to Chicago tomorrow, to Milwaukee. You're going back to the big leagues. So I went back and pitched the last 2 months after being groomed all year as a general manager in the big league in 1987. And that was, you know, the joy I had being groomed as a general manager was learning the baseball side of the business, how they think, how they look at things, how they word things, what is their scope. That was huge for me. But leaving the front office, being groomed as a general manager, and being able to go back to the big leagues and pitch 2 months of the season in the big leagues, that was pretty special. That was pretty special.
Yeah, I could imagine. I'm sure that was probably an awesome way to end your playing career. So there you moved on to coaching and working in the front office, and of course stuck with the Brewers for a bit. But I'm a diehard Texas Rangers fan, so I got to ask, coaching wise, first of all, you mentioned earlier you got to coach Nolan Ryan, and honestly, to someone like me, I just got to say, at that point in his career, I imagine you couldn't really teach him too much that he didn't know. So what did coaching Nolan Ryan really consist of?
Well, coaching Nolan was asking him, what do I need to look for to remind you that you're not doing? Because he's always got a delivery. I mean, his delivery is Nolan Ryan. I mean, you got X amount of no hitters. I mean, what are you going to tell a guy like that? Yeah. But what I tried to do was look at what he needed to do. What do I need to remind you of? You're not lifting your leg high enough, or you're not staying on your backside. Tell me something that I can see physically with my eyes that I need to remind you of. And he said, Ray, when I lift my left leg, I've got to hit my chest. That's his balancing point. That tells him he's staying back. If he doesn't hit his chest, he's going down the slope too fast. So always look for that. Yeah? Now, you think a lot of guys lifting their leg that high thought that that's where he got his power from. No, he didn't get his power from his leg kick. He got his power from the ground up, stand on his backside. So that was the unique part of that scenario for me. Jose Canseco coming to me and said, hey, Ray, can you teach me how to pitch? I said, no, you just hit him. No, it's too late. I ain't teaching you how to pitch. Want me to teach him how to throw a knuckleball. Seriously? Go out there and catch a ball, really. But that's where I talk to him. I talk to him like crazy. Hey, I'm a former player. I know the lingo. So, but the guy I really enjoyed coaching was Juan Gonzalez. I was real close with Juan Gonzalez. I really enjoyed him. And the coaching staff that we had there, Bob Oliver, third base coach, Toby Harrah, who later on took over Marvin Valentine's as the interim manager at the All-Star break that year in '92. And And then what I learned from Tom House was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And well, you went from coaching with them to working in their front office. So what was working in the front office with them like?
That was really neat because I was in community development. And I enjoyed going out into the community, talking baseball, working with Bobby Bragan. Did a lot of community stuff with Bobby Bragan, and he was really, really, really an honorable man. You know, I really enjoyed spending time with Bobby Bragan. We shared offices together at the new ballpark in Arlington before they moved out of the old one. So being able to have dialect with him, you know, him playing with Jackie Robinson, him not wanting Jackie on the club when Jackie first came in 47, and he was leading the charge of that. And I asked him one day, I said, Bobby, I said, what was the deal? What was your reason? And I said, you know, feel free, you don't have to tell me, you really don't. He said, no. He said, Ray, that was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. That was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. To judge a man like that because of the color of his skin. So I thought that was heavy to me. Yeah. That said, that was deep to me. People don't understand what that means. When you say that to a black man, that's deep.
Yeah.
That says you're a human being just like I am. You have no control over the color of your skin. None. That was heavy. I never forgot that stuff. I never forgot.
Well, that's awesome to hear. I didn't know I was going to get that story. I'm real grateful to hear that one. Yeah. And I know you coached for a while, and you've done it all, and you're still doing it.
Yes,
you're a diplomat, or sorry, not diplomat. I keep saying that. Ambassador.
Yeah.
And you know, I just got to ask you to explain to my audience, because when I've been telling people I was fixing to talk to you and that you were an ambassador now, a lot of people just didn't know that was a thing. And so, what is an ambassador of the game, and what is being an ambassador consist of?
Well, I'm an ambassador of the game, but I'm an ambassador for the Chicago Cubs and the New York Yankees. And what that means is I go back and forth into Chicago on homestands and visit the suites and do promotions for the organization on behalf of baseball, on behalf of the Chicago Cubs. Fantasy camps, meet and greets, suite visits, anything that they need an alumni player or a former player to do. It takes all of the work away from them trying to get an active player to go do it because they're getting ready to play the game.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with that idea is really unique because, and you know, you got a lot of active players that just don't have the time, but you got a lot of inactive players that play there, that love that are great ambassadors, great people skills, and love to talk baseball and have fun, who can come in and really enhance the venue. And so I get a chance to do that, and I really, really love it. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, one question I ask every person who comes on this show, and just to give you an example of how I wanted to start asking this question, was Billy Sample told me a story about Brooks Robinson coming up to him before a game and telling him that he was a big deal, and you know, Billy Sample didn't think nothing of it.
Right.
He told him, I don't even have my own baseball card. And then the next game, Brooks Robinson handed Billy Sample a whole stack of baseball cards of his, and Billy Sample said that was his little boy moment in the MLB. Like, oh man, this is my hero. Or
yeah.
I gotta ask you, what was your little boy moment when you were playing in the MLB?
My little boy moment was 1992. I'm a coach, assistant pitching coach with the Texas Rangers, and we're playing in Anaheim. And Gene Autry comes in through to the clubhouse with his handler holding on to it. And I got up enough courage, like a little 5-year-old kid, to go up to him and say, Mr. Autry, my name is, before I could even get name out, he said, Ray Burris, I know who you are. He was my favorite cowboy growing up, Gene Autry. And he signed an autographed ball for me that I still have today. Gene Autry. That was my little boy moment. Oh my God. That was just like, I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to act. And, getting to meet, have dinner with Muhammad Ali.
Whoa.
Was a little boy moment. This was after his fight with George Foreman in 1974 in Zaire. And I had dinner at his house in south side of Chicago. Yes. Yes. I was like a little kid in a candy store.
How'd you get invited to that?
People you know. Stratty, people you know.
Oh man.
Signed the boxing gloves for me. Oh yeah. So the game opened up a lot of opportunities that I got a chance to experience. I got to go backstage at the Mill Run Theater in Chicago to meet the Jackson 5.
Wow.
1974. The whole family. It's just like I was like a little kid. Yeah. Like a little kid. The Jackson 5. How about that? So the game has given me opportunities beyond my wildest imagination. That didn't take away from my ability to compete. It just added to the environment of what I was in. And that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
Well, I'm gonna let you go here soon. I just want to wrap it up with a quick talk about pitching. Because I know, like you said prior to the interview, you still do clinics.
Yes.
What do you think of pitching today? Mostly I want to talk about pitch count because that's something that's been on my mind a lot recently. I read actually that one time, I don't know if this is true. Nolan Ryan threw 235 pitches in one game. I know Mike Norris of the A's back in the day would regularly be around 180 pitches. I want to know, how many pitches do you think you would average in a game when you were at your peak? And what do you think of pitch count being implemented and being such a big part of how pitchers are used today?
I think pitch counts are very important today because you got guys that don't pitch. They throw. And there's a difference, Daddy. If I'm only focusing on one thing, how hard I'm throwing the baseball, you're not pitching. 3 things are better than velocity. 3 things: movement, location, change in speeds. Now, do you think if every time you throw a pitch, you look at the scoreboard to see what it reveals, 99, 102, you're thinking about changing speeds? Absolutely not. So pitch counts are more prevalent today because guys don't pitch. They throw. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying you got more throwers than pitchers. Do you think Jamie Moyer would be in the big leagues today?
No.
You think Greg Maddux would be in the big leagues today?
No, or Mark Eichhorn.
Or Mark Eichhorn? You think Randy Jones would be in the big leagues today?
No, because they're focused on speed. That's what they want today.
Exactly. And that's not speed. Speed is not teachable. Hear me when I say that, audience. Speed is not teachable. Movement, location, changing speeds are. What is hidden? Timing. How are you timing somebody throwing at 99 every time? These guys can get the barrel to that bat. You provide the power, they just got to provide the timing. So that's why pitch counts are very prevalent today. That's why you don't see pitchers going 7 innings. Yeah, when I came along, I was thinking 7 innings. If I got to the 7th inning, the score is 15-0, I'm going the rest of the way. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you got guys throwing no hitters, and then they're taking them out of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is wild and bizarre.
So I just look at, pitch clock, pitch pitch counts are necessary. We didn't have no pitch counts. The hitters told the manager whether your velocity was slowing down. Sometimes the catchers would tell the manager, but not now. You know, it's pitch counts. You know, so I think that has changed the dynamics, and that's why. I mean, think about it. In the last 5 years, right? How many guys have thrown 200 innings in both leagues in the last 5 years?
Oh man, not many. I know the guy for the last 5 years to throw the most innings in total is Patrick Corbin.
I mean,
he's a crafty lefty.
Yeah, crafty lefty.
Yeah,
because he understands how to locate. He understands how to pitch. Crafty lefty. So when you look at that, why is that? You know, your Cy Young winner is going to have 190 innings pitched. So,
doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense. Okay, now I'd love to throw 180 innings as a starter and make $20 million a year.
Yeah,
I wouldn't complain about that.
No, of course not. But y'all were workhorses then and getting paid way less.
Well, exactly. But we were athletes. You know, not saying guys are not athletes today, but we were pitchers. We knew how to pitch. We knew how to let our savvy and we knew when we needed to put a little extra on it. We knew when we needed to take a little off. If I'm giving up hard hit ground balls or hard hit line drives, then they're timing my speed. Back off. And by the time they figure that out, then you add to it.
Well, I gotta ask this because this is something I never pitched. I only played catcher. I only played positions when I played baseball. So this is something I've always been curious about. And, I don't know anything about it, but I read, in 82, they were criticizing you because you came into spring training weighing 230 and then you lost that weight. What I read was that your weight fluctuated. I didn't go back to check, but I just wanted to ask you this was there a difference in how you were throwing and anything, or were you pitching better when you weighed more or weighed less? Did that affect it at all?
It did affect it because when you have extra weight on you, you're taking that weight with you down the slope. And that extra weight, you got to get in shape carrying that extra weight. Most people don't understand the value in that. The chart, the scales were going up, and I was almost at 260. And then I started at the end of the 81 season, and then I started losing it. And I was doing 1,500 sit-ups a day, running 2 miles extra a day, eating tuna fish sandwiches, and I lost 30 pounds in 2 weeks. So I went from 260 to 230.
Dang.
Yeah. So that was a big difference. And 30 pounds was a big difference. Now I was still pitching. I was still doing my running, but I was losing the weight at the same time. Now, losing that much in that short of a time, I did become anemic. So I continued to keep it off, but man, could I feel a difference in my body. I could feel a difference in my stamina, my endurance. The weight, it felt like I wasn't carrying so much weight down the slope, which was tiring me out. So by doing that, I wasn't letting the ball go like I was capable of letting the ball go. So yeah, it will affect you. It will affect you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll just wrap it up with this. One more question.
Right.
2 lineups that you got the chance to pitch against were the Big Red Machine.
Yes.
And then the Pittsburgh Pirates, led by Willie Stargell.
Yeah.
What was it like pitching against those lineups?
That was challenging. See, the thing that I look at in those lineups right there, and I've had a chance to share with some of those players how much they made me better by the way they competed. And I knew I had to go out there with an A game. I knew I had to go out there and be sharp. I had to go out there and pay attention to details. I had to go out there and make my pitches. I had to go out there and attack. So they made me better. Okay. The Big Red Machine in the 70s, the Pirates in the 70s, they were formidable teams. And you take the Dodgers, you take the Cardinals, all those teams, they were tough. And so it made me a better pitcher. And that's what I appreciate about those teams, how good they were. But knowing how good I had to be, I had to rival that competition. And so I was able to use the Big Red Machine or the Pittsburgh Pirates as though I was pitching against them every time I went out there. So I thank the Big Red Machine. I thank the Pittsburgh Pirates for the way they competed and the way they won, the World Series in the 70s. Pirates in 71, 79, Reds in 75, 76. That right there, you couldn't go into those cities or they come into your city and be sloppy because you weren't going to last long. So I am very honored and appreciative to have pitched against those quality of ball clubs and been able to win against those quality of ball clubs with the personnel that they had. Yeah.
Well, I would say that's a pretty good and healthy way to look at the competition.
Yes,
well, Mr. Burris, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I hope I get to talk to you again soon. It really has been a pleasure. If there's anything you'd like to say.
Yeah. I have some of the things that I'm doing right now. I'm on Cameo.
Cool.
I don't know if a lot of people are aware of Cameo, but I do requests and I do singing telegrams, happy birthdays, happy anniversaries, and so I enjoy doing that because I'm a people person. So
so hey, if any of my viewers are Cubs fans or if they're ones are Cubs fans, why not get them a Chicago Cub to say happy birthday to him or anything? Ray Burris is your guy for the job.
I'll even sing to a Texas Rangers fan.
Yeah. Or a Texas Rangers fan like me. But thank you so much, Mr. Burris, and you have a great one.
You too, my friend.